I think all these influencers are lying about being rich. I'm almost at 1 million followers. Broke as fuck.
We know that the recession is here because these influencers at Coachella look like ass.
So a lot of these influencers and people nowadays, they take their quick little money, they spend it all, and they have a Lambo, and then they're broke in 6 months.
Yes, I make $400,000 a week, but if you want, you can buy my course.
Likes, they're not paying anymore, and brand deals are actually drying up.
Guys, when I tell you, I haven't made $1 since February. Not $1. Not one email.
Here's a day in the life of an influencer living in Los Angeles who can't pay her mortgage.
You gotta send a Galaxy, bro. You gotta get a Galaxy, guys. Send me something, man. Tell me make it a living.
Oh, you know it's bad when Alex Earl is commenting on her own post saying, "Why am I shadow banned?"
I say this as someone who is meeting a lot of influencers now day to day. They're in credit card debt.
Nothing fuels resentment quite like watching someone unbox a $15,000 handbag while you're wondering if you can even afford rent next month.
No, this is not bad.
For years, that's been the internet's great divide. Millions of people struggling through layoffs, inflation, and a cost of living crisis, while the influencers lived their best lives, flaunting $200 candles, renovating mansions, and floating from one luxury vacation to the next.
We're in Africa and I got a frozen brown elephant, which is Coca-Cola. Hello.
But oh, how the tables have turned. Because suddenly we're seeing influencers scramble. Everywhere you look, creators are selling questionable courses, promoting shady products, and squeezing every last dollar out of their audiences. The truth is, no matter how polished their Instagram stories look, the recession is catching up to the creator economy, and the era of easy money online may be coming to an end. So that's what we're going to unpack today: the collapse of the influencer gold rush, the creators who are left panning for scraps, and why the promise of influencer freedom was always too good to be true. Okay, so the first thing we need to address is the fact that a lot of influencers have been faking success the whole time. Because while some of them do make boatloads of money, as it turns out, many of them are just trying to fake it till they make it to that level of success.
Why are influencers so broke? Why literally this week did I get 6 calls from different creators that have so many followers being like, do you think I could do UGC? Why are you LARPing then? Why are you making it seem like you live this grand life?
The moment that truly shattered the influencer facade, as we all remember, was back in 2020 when the story came out that influencers had been renting a fake private jet set, pretending that they were living their best lives 35,000 feet above ground, which is hilarious, but also is a tale as old as time in the influencer world. Ever since the peak of the YouTube days, up-and-coming influencers have been performing wealth that they don't have, betting that the payoff eventually will outweigh the price tag. That price tag included designer clothes, Airbnbs, supercars, and even renting out mansions, all as an investment in their future.
When I tell you the money back then on YouTube was absolutely insane. I was only 19 when I started my YouTube channel, and as you can imagine, all of that money at such a young age came with a lot of frivolous spending. Now the proud owner of a bunch of designer bags.
Because when you logged online and saw Jake Paul flying on a private jet, literally waving money around like confetti,
we made like $1 million off of YouTube. From vlogging.
It's easy to justify your spending. The influencer Lizette shares her story of this pressure, said here she took on $10,000 in credit card debt in the mid-2010s, trying to mimic the carefree, fun, and busy influencer lifestyle that dominated Instagram at the time. Taking a trip to Austin, shopping at influencer favorite stores, or dining at trendy new restaurants. You feel like you have to put up this interesting lifestyle, less so a premium lifestyle. It's like, oh, I have things going on every day, don't you see? And I think especially during the 2010s, when aspirational content was at its peak, essentially dominating the space, there weren't many other options besides portraying a curated, living my best life aesthetic if you wanted to gain traction online. Just look at the fact that one of the most popular corners of YouTube was haul content. The more shopping bags you had in the thumbnail, the more views you would get. So that's where the facade began, but fast forward to the present day, and money is still a fickle thing in the influencer industry. Because even if all that investment paid off and you're one of the lucky ones who made it in the industry, getting into partnership programs and the brand deals start rolling in, that doesn't necessarily mean you've achieved the American dream or that your bank account reflects your success.
I'm not the most financially responsible person in the world. I feel like the second I do a brand deal, I have the money, and I don't. And I spend it like I have it because I know it's coming.
Because what usually comes next? That's right, lifestyle inflation. To maintain the illusion of success online, you spend more of what you're making, racking up views in the process by flaunting your new high-class lifestyle.
Over the last few weeks, I've been really purging my house and especially my closet and just getting rid of so much that I don't use anymore. And one thing I realized is I have purchased way too many designer bags that I literally never use. I feel like it's just one of those things where when you finally have the opportunity to purchase designer items, you just get really excited. And you don't really think about what you're buying, but because it has a designer label, it makes you excited and you purchase it.
The problem being that when the influencer money inevitably dries up, which usually does happen to some extent, you're stuck with the bills from the lifestyle you built at your peak. So you're either forced to go into debt keeping up with appearances or downgrade your lifestyle substantially with nothing to show for your success.
This girl got on here and was talking about how influencers are going to be broke soon. And it's comparable to professional athletes because most of them, like 70 to 80%, end up going broke. And the main reason is because they buy a bunch of stuff like houses, cars, whatever, for themselves, for their families, and then when it's time to pay and they're out of the league, like there's literally no money left.
There's no better example of this than a few years ago when Jason Nash, who we all remember from David Dobrik's Vlog Squad, but he was the talk of the town because he was begging for money on TikTok Live, even though he should be set up for life given how much money he was making at his peak.
Like $250,000, $300,000.
Through what, sponsors and stuff
Through
like
sponsors.
that?
In a podcast, he was asked about this and why he doesn't just get a normal job, and he simply says that he can't. Sure.
Would I be on TikTok Live if I wasn't in like a financial hole? I don't know. Probably not. It is what it is.
Since then, we've also seen Tara Lynn, an OF and TikTok creator who rode the same riches to rags roller coaster. She blew up during the pandemic TikTok boom and leveled up her lifestyle, which included buying a mansion in California.
When I bought this house, I was like making so much more money than I do now because my OF was just doing better. So I was making all this money. I got approved for a $6 million loan. I was like, oh wow. But I had already found this house and this house was on the market for 3.8. And I was like, oh, like I'm lowballing it right now. Like so I think I took out, I don't know, I put like $1 million down and then I did renovations. So like my minimum mortgage payment right now is $25,000 a month.
But the money did eventually slow down. And as she shared in multiple TikToks, she couldn't afford her $25,000 a month mortgage payments anymore.
And I used to be making enough money to cover that. I am no longer. And I'm very transparent about that.
Alas, Tara shares that she inevitably had to sell her house and is trying to live within her means now. The overarching theme here is that it's all too common to have too much success with too little financial literacy, which brings us to influencer giftings. Pretty much every scroll session, you're bound to stumble upon a #gifted post where a creator shares how a brand hooked them up with some free product that they didn't expect and are so grateful for. The problem with this is that it's not just a present from your aunt. It's a business transaction dressed up in gift language, even if there's no contract signed. Meaning that gift is compensation, and so the market value of whatever you received is still taxable income. And so to the unfortunate surprise of some influencers, by the time tax season rolls around, they receive tax bills for all the giftings that brands sent them and wrote off to the IRS as marketing expenses.
As an influencer, I received a 1099 that said that I was compensated $63,000 for the year of 2023, when, spoiler alert, I didn't even make half of that in the entire year from social media, let alone one collaboration.
This is real money they owe on physical products they received, and sadly, they can't just slice a Revlon lipstick into thirds and mail off 30% to the IRS. And so these influencers are stuck footing the bill even if they aren't making an income off of their socials yet, digging themselves into a financial hole that they weren't even aware of.
I want to get free stuff. No, you do not. No, you do not.
And it really is tragic because with basic financial literacy, these creators would understand how taxes work, as well as the importance of setting money aside in savings for a rainy day.
Somewhere in the fine print of that PR, which I obviously didn't read, it states that you get taxed. And I had turned in a W-9 to them, but I didn't know what a W-9 was. So I didn't know I was getting taxed.
But the unfortunate reality is that a lot of them don't even know that they need to set money aside for taxes, let alone when the brand deals dry up. But the moral of the story is that this is a common cycle in the influencer world. Lifestyle inflation catches up with you and you're left with bills to pay and no money to pay them. Often this leaves people in an even worse position than they started with, relying on credit cards just to get by until their next big break. Speaking of financial literacy, a stat that surprised me was that about 82% of Americans don't have a high-yield savings account, which means a lot of people are missing out on money they could be earning just by parking their savings in the right place. And honestly, how can you blame them? I know when I opened my first savings account, I didn't know that there were options and that some accounts could earn more and actually help your money grow faster. I just assumed that all savings accounts pretty much worked the same, because no one really teaches you these things, right? You just stumble across them along the way. But I want to help you skip that step with today's sponsor, Chime. Chime is America's #1 choice for banking, and their high-yield savings account earns 3.75% APY. If you're wondering what that actually means, let's say you have $10,000 in savings. At Chime's 3.75% APY, you'd earn about $382 in a year. Compare that to the $38 you'd earn with the national average. And that's a pretty meaningful difference in money that's just sitting there. Chime also has no monthly fees or minimum balance requirements, making saving effortless. Turn on roundups to automatically save the spare change from everyday purchases, or set aside a percentage of every paycheck. It's a really easy way to build savings in the background. Plus, with the Chime Card, you can get 5% cash back in a category of your choice, including groceries, gas, dining, travel, and more, most of which are essentials that you're already spending money on. So if you would like to get your money working a little harder for you, right now when you open a new Chime checking account exclusively through my link in the description, you can get up to a $350 bonus. Be sure to use the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen, which also takes you to that link, and you can sign up in minutes. If you do, you'll be joining the millions of people who are already banking fee-free today through Chime, and make sure you use that link to get the $350 bonus. So this brings us to our next uncomfortable truth, that the influencer industry in a lot of ways isn't all it's cracked up to be, which is tragic considering it's one of the last financial opportunities to get ahead for millennials and Gen Z, and now that's drying up too.
The reality of being a content creator with over 200,000 followers is I'm broke. I go viral literally every single week. Every week. I had $101 in my bank account yesterday.
Because while, yes, we see a lot of high-income influencers on our feed, they are the exception, not the average. In reality, most content creators, mid-level and micro, make just an average income. Less than 13% of all online influencers cleared over $100,000 last year. Nearly 50% made just $15,000 or less.
Here is every single dollar that I've made from social media in the last couple months. I made $1,000 in March, $1,000 in February. January was a good month. Hey, December 14th, $700. November, $700 and $600.
Brantley is a perfect example of this as a full-time creator for 3 years with more than 400,000 followers and averaging 100,000 views per video. His income last year was less than the median annual pay for full-time US workers in 2023, $58,000, which is very eye-opening considering that the common assumption is that if you have a big following, you have a big income to match. But as it turns out, the less talked about side of the influencer industry is that most creators are in fact not rolling in it. If anything, the influencer industry is just another subset of our late-stage capitalist society, reflecting the same wage gap we see in the broader economy. A small percentage at the top capturing the majority of the wealth, while everyone else fights over scraps.
De-influencing you from wanting to become an influencer, let's cover my income that I made in September, okay, and October. So ads, I made $2,242.43, not that bad. TikTok Creator Fund was $136.12. Links, I made $82.94, which surprised me because I really don't post a ton of links, but grand total was $2,461.49.
But there is a reason why we have this perception of influencer tax brackets, because it used to be a huge cash cow, right?
A little over $275,000.
Like the girlies back in the day really were just posting school morning routines and room tours and making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We were making money in 2016.
Can we talk about that?
The views, they're not the same anymore.
No.
Like, I'm not kidding. Do you remember this? We were like some of the only people posting a lot. Like there was like not that many people. So, you know, I'm not kidding. I would be like #2 trending for a video called like at the pumpkin patch, 4 million views, you'd make 20 grand, and it was like whatever.
No, it's crazy.
Like, it was crazy. It's not the same anymore.
Can we drop a monthly number? Like, can we get real?
In the day? Oh
like,
my God, or now? Yes.
So like what? Like an AdSense check from like, let's peak month would be like Christmas, December.
Oh yeah,
December 2016, like the check
was making $100,000.
Yeah,
But that just isn't the reality anymore, and I think there are two main factors at play here that ended the gold rush. For one, as much as every influencer coach will say that it's never too late to get started in this industry, the truth is that social media has become very saturated when compared to the early days.
I feel like every single person is an influencer now, and I love that. If that is like your goal and your dream, that's amazing, but it's also so scary how competitive that energy is now.
The biggest turning point being the TikTok boom, where suddenly all you needed was a smartphone and something interesting to say, and anyone could become an influencer. And that was great, right? Like, it's awesome that the barrier to entry was lowered so much that anyone could change their life just by putting themselves online. But this oversaturation has had its impact on what it takes to make a living on social media. For one, with more creators online, there's a higher competition for views, making it harder than ever to build your page. And so nowadays, you do have to work harder than just doing a silly dance on TikTok to go viral. As well, with there being more creators online, the money being spent in the industry gets spread out thinner among them. We see this play out with brands who now disperse their budgets instead of dumping huge lump sums on single creators, which decreases everyone's income. As this creator shares, I noticed the pay was downtrending in 2022. There are people already at, I can't pay my rent, I've got to crowdfund my rent. I jumped out before it got that bad. The ROI on creators overall shifted. Brands and marketing budgets have shifted. A lot of those things changed. Honestly, there are too many creators. Add to that the sponsorship problem. Most influencers rely on sponsorships for their livelihood because platform partnership programs simply don't pay very well. But that means influencers are only as wealthy as their audience because brands expect sales. And the thing is, audiences are struggling these days.
Some of these influencers are so out of touch. It's insane. I was just on Instagram scrolling through a holiday gift guide from this one influencer. 3 things. She had a $700 YSL clutch. Who is gifting that? She had a pair of socks for $125, and she had a mini hairbrush for $140. What are we in this economy and this economy?
This is of course because of the recession, which has officially been declared in Canada anyway, but is still looming in America. But whatever you call it, a real recession or a vibe session, it's finally catching up with the influencers. The brands signing their checks are taking note and tightening budgets in response to the economic climate. All the way back in 2022, a study found that 6% of businesses were reducing their marketing budgets. Since then, a more recent survey found that 42% of companies are making that move. And it's only continued to dry up because the whole point of influencer marketing is to sell product. But when the consumer has less disposable income, there are fewer sales, which means brands aren't seeing the ROI they used to.
You sort of, I mean, I didn't anticipate this, but people associate coming off Love Island that everyone's going to sign 6-7 figure deals with fast fashion brands, And I think the industry's evolved so much that that doesn't happen anymore.
Well,
and
there was the whole who's getting the PLT deal.
Yeah.
That was like whenever anyone came out, it was like who's going to get that deal.
Doesn't happen
It's
anymore.
not a thing.
It's not a thing.
Basically, we've come a long ways from the pandemic days where influencers were rolling in it when everyone was stuck at home with extra cash to spend on whatever creators were selling. Influencer Collie Marks, who has 53,000 TikTok followers, used to charge $550 for a sponsored TikTok post. Now most brands are offering her $350. I definitely still have a lot coming through my inbox, but I think a lot of brands aren't willing to pay the same amount they used to. The low proposition is a stark difference from last summer, when Mark said brands would offer her about $1,200 for a post. It's harder for me to say no to these collaborations because with everyone talking about this recession coming, I'm just going to take what I can get and put that money into savings.
This is kind of a niche rant, so let me just tell you what's going on with me right now because I think it's crazy. So I've been posting on here since 2020. I was able to actually over time, like after like a year or two, make a living off here, like getting the odd brand deal here and that's not crazy money, definitely not crazy. Then last year when I became a mom, I hit 1 million followers and my dad bought me a cake. November, I signed with management. Okay, so it's June. I no longer have that management. Guys, when I tell you, I haven't made $1 since February. Not $1. Not 1 email.
Looking at other revenue sources, pretty much everything has been affected. As you can expect, affiliate sales are down, which many influencers also rely on, and the platforms themselves are also pulling back on creator payouts. Seen here, Ben originally became popular on TikTok in 2022 because of his posts about the word puzzle game Wordle. The 29-year-old New Yorker eventually expanded into linguistic and other educational content, and by early 2023 was able to support himself and his bills of over $4,000 a month. TikTok has closed its fund since then, but was testing its creator rewards program. Ben said in March he received about $200 to $400 per million views, and it steadily declined since then, even as his follower count reached 2.5 million. The followers are still there, but the money isn't. He recently hit a new low, receiving only $120 for a video with 10 million views, which I acknowledge is hard to sympathize with. The influencer economy isn't exactly known for deserving public sympathy.
I am out of touch, first and foremost.
But realistically, it's not the mega rich influencers flaunting their wealth who are struggling here. It's the middle class influencers getting a hard reality check, unable to rely on their income anymore.
When I first joined the TikTok Creator Fund at the tail end of 2024, all of a sudden, I was making money that it completely shocked me. There were months when I would make from TikTok alone. The highest was $2,400 in a month, okay? But like 1,000, 2,000, 2,400. And that happened pretty much up until the TikTok ban in January of 2025. But it just plummeted. By the time I took my break, the last few months before that, I was maybe making $100 a month.
And I do think that's sad because these are just everyday people trying to turn something they love into a way to support themselves. Moving on, the dream of the influencer has always been simple: goof around and get rich. Well, as we've established, the get rich part was oversold, but what about the goofing around part? Because the thing is, even without boatloads of money, it's still a pretty sweet gig, right? You can do whatever you want, and as long as you film it, you get paid. Just look at the influencers of today. We have the city girl TikToker who spends her day vlogging walks to coffee shops, Pilates classes, running errands, and going out for dinner. In the gaming niche, influencers play video games all day and all night, cracking jokes in the live chat along the way. Or the travel vlogger who is always in a new country, exploring the world, and never tied down to a 9-to-5. All living idyllic lives. However, there is a side to this that is often too taboo to talk about. Because at the risk of sounding like Michaela, who famously said, just try being an influencer for a day, Kim Kardashian. Being an influencer is not always as dreamy as it seems. And in fact, there are some drawbacks. There's a reason why so many original influencers didn't stick around, like Michelle Phan, one of the first beauty YouTubers, who walked away from her 9 million subscriber channel, and also why Mr. Beast recently said in an interview, if my mental health was a priority, I wouldn't be as successful as I am. To try and understand this, we should first lay the groundwork of what an influencer career lifespan actually looks like. Spoiler alert, longevity isn't really this industry's strong suit, because for every 15-year veteran that evolved through YouTube's early days and into short-form content or even branched into adjacent businesses, there are hundreds, if not thousands more, that hit their peak and never recovered from the fall.
When you see younger people say, you know, the number one job dream for them is not, you know, astronaut or, you know, firefighter, it's YouTuber, it's influencer. What do you think when you see that?
I think that there is a shelf life on social media. It's so fast. It moves so quick. And I mean, especially now, like people become super famous and super viral, and then you never hear them like 2 months later. So I guess I hope people are cautious of that.
In fact, even though there isn't an official lifespan for the creator economy, some put it at 3 to 7 years, which is so short, but makes sense when you look at all the forces moving people through the industry. The reality of this job is that a lot of it is out of your control, and the rules are constantly changing, which eventually weeds people out.
Why have all these YouTubers that were big in 2014, 15, 16, why have they now like walked away from their channels?
Partly because my audience have all grown up, or the audience I had back then, they've all got older. I presume a lot of the ones started watching me when they were 14, 15. They're all now in their 20s. They've got their own stuff going on, and the stuff that I knew how to make back then is not what want to consume now as content.
Compared to back in the early days of influencing, when you could rely on building a loyal community that would, for the most part, keep up with your content, that's just not how the algorithm works anymore. In the modern day of influencing, followers and subscribers have become vanity metrics that don't play into how much exposure you actually get. Because the algorithm doesn't just choose what new viewers get offered your content, it also decides whether your current followers should see it.
My own followers have been telling me for months, maybe even a year at this point, that they never ever see my content. They have to manually look me up, and even at that, sometimes they'll see that they're not following me, even though they are.
As this influencer shares, I've got as many followers as Instagram decides I've got that day. I don't have 4 million followers, I probably got an average of 20,000 followers. This was a hot topic last year on multiple platforms. We had beauty influencer Jaclyn Hill complaining in her mention that people don't watch her out of touch content anymore, which was a bad example, as many pointed out. She probably doesn't get views because she isn't relatable to her audience. But she did have a point, as many Instagrammers will say they never reach their full audience in their stories, let alone posts.
I am like fighting. I feel like I am like trying to run through mud to connect with my followers at this point.
And this is because the algorithm prioritizes highly engaging content over basically anything else. It cares about keeping as many eyes on the site as possible, not about the individual creator, which makes creating content that much harder when every post is an uphill battle, not building on top of itself, rather fighting for attention on every post, which, as you can expect, can be exhausting.
Try being an influencer for a day. Try it.
Because compared to a normal job where you can build a reputation, a client base, and a trusted formula that works, creating content can feel like you're perpetually starting from scratch over and over again. Hence the burnout.
This is me quitting being a full-time content creator. Hi, I'm Rachel. I've been a full-time travel content creator for years and traveling full-time for the last 8 years. For context, I've loved filming videos since before YouTube even existed. I went to film school and I know I'll always create videos, but turning it into my full-time main job in the past few years has absolutely changed the experience for me. At first, of course, it felt like freedom. I became my own boss, but over time, I got tired. I got tired of needing everything to perform. I got tired of tying my safety to algorithms that I don't control, and of course, relying on an income that spikes one month and then disappears the next. But mainly, I got tired of feeling like I always had to be visible to stay relevant.
Shared here, behind the scenes, creators say they need to constantly produce compelling posts or risk losing momentum. They spend their days planning, filming, and editing posts while also working to make inroads with advertisers and interacting with fans. It's a lot more work than people realize. This was also a big conversation in the YouTube world last summer, where a bunch of big creators complained that their views got cut nearly in half, all on the same day. I remember following the drama. They tried reaching out to their YouTube contacts, who weren't very helpful, but eventually they figured it was some sort of combination of algorithm changes, ad restrictions, and something about AI. Either way, it goes to show that even channels with millions of subscribers aren't immune to the algorithm, and overnight the businesses that they spent decades building can come crumbling down. As Casey Neistat recently said, he no longer has any understanding of what YouTube's algorithm is optimized for. I do also have to mention that TikTok was the worst case of this whiplash, where it was going to be banned, and then it wasn't going to be banned, and then it was going to be banned, and then it was sold off. And I can only imagine the emotional roller coaster that those creators went through, unsure of whether their job will be around next month. And then as a cherry on top, when the sale of TikTok finally went through, an immediate algorithm change tanked a bunch of channels. One micro-influencer in the productivity niche documented a drop from 120,000 views on a standard morning routine video to just 31,000 after the update, even though the video used identical trending audio and caption structure.
And I know like views come and go, like it's all just up and down all of the time, but this has been going on for months. Like since October, November, my views just saw like a steep drop out of nowhere. I've seen other creators just like me, like same amount of followers, going through the exact same thing. So I don't think it's like a content thing. Like I think this is like a system problem.
Which, like, yes, I get it, boo-hoo, it's a silly thing to complain about, it's not the hardest job in the world, but it does go to show that being an influencer isn't all rainbows and butterflies. There is some work involved, and there's a lot of instability of how you're gonna pay your bills next month. This is what makes burnout culture so prolific, because everyone is running a million miles an hour trying to stay relevant. So much so that there's even a trend of influencers going back to their 9-to-5 jobs, because the pressure of virality became too much, and they missed the stability of regular regular jobs.
I quit social media full-time, got a 9-to-5, and I'm the happiest I've been in a very long time. Let's talk about it. I know it's a hot take, especially because most people's journey goes in the opposite direction. I love social media. I've been doing it for 5 years. I can't imagine just not posting at all. It's second nature to me. But the truth is, social media is not what it used to be, and because of that, I no longer treat it the same either. But the part that nobody talks about is that the money is extremely delayed and can be deeply inconsistent. Brands can take 60 to 90 plus days to pay you, and sometimes even longer. Even with a manager bringing in deals, there can be dry spells, and that can really leave you panicked. Now with your 9-to-5, your traditional job, that paycheck is going to hit your account every 2 weeks no matter what. Add benefits and job security, and you're quite literally sleeping better.
Also said here, it's like walking on eggshells and never knowing when the blanket is going to be slipped up from underneath your feet, and you're going to be left with nothing. Which is something that I definitely can relate to. Like, while I do think this is the best job, I mean, the basis of my work is deep diving into topics that interest me, and then I get to share with other people who are interested in it, which is really cool. But that's not to say that it doesn't come with some level of stress and insecurity. So while I'm fully enjoying this, I also have to be realistic that my job probably won't look like this forever. And while I'll adapt to the best I can, it's just such an unpredictable industry. So I just feel best taking it day by day and enjoying it as long as I can. To wrap this chapter up, I think we see this big rotation through influencers, partially because people have an inaccurate perception of the job. And then when they make it in and they see that it's not what they expected, it would make sense that many of them would either decide it's not for them or they just don't care to stick it out.
The people who say it's easy are so far out of their minds, try it for a day.
Okay, final thoughts. So as much fun as it is to see the influencer space crash and burn, I do still think it's sad because it hits the middle class influencers the most. And these are the people often doing it part-time to help supplement their income or pay off debt or just get ahead a little bit. Like I said, it's not the big creators getting affected by this. They're still gonna buy their luxury products and get their big brand deals, and everyone else deals with the pay cuts. With that, I do still think social media is a great job and there is money to be made. There's just not as much money in it as there used to be. I also think it's a really good opportunity for people doing it part-time because when you're not relying on it to pay your bills, there's a lot of pressure taken off. But it was about time that the recession did hit the influencers because it's hitting everything. So the industry isn't dying. I think it just might evolve from this. You know, everyone will recover eventually, right? That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Please subscribe if you haven't and check out the merch. All the proceeds go to the SA Foundation. And I wish you a week of financial stability. Maybe. I wish that every week for you. Bye.
And dare I say, being an influencer actually is hard because in very, very few career paths can you open up your email inbox and have an inquiry from a brand, a world-renowned weight loss company saying that they're working on a new campaign and they want you all over that thing. No, there isn't a guidebook to deal with that. You can't turn to your friends and say, did this happen to you at the office today? Because if it happened to them at the office, they'd be staring down the barrel of a lawsuit, baby. You know what I mean? Me personally, just another day at work.